to preserve, protect, and defend the soul of America, the weight of unwanted animals, the American shelter system, the no-kill movement, and the human problem that shelters cannot solve. The American pound was established as a tool of urban sanitation, designed to clear wandering livestock and dogs from city streets. By the 1970s, it functioned as a mass disposal system. In 1973, between 13.5 and 20 million dogs and cats were killed annually in these facilities. For most animals, the pound was a terminus. This staggering volume followed the post-war suburban boom. The GI Bill made the single-family home and the dog in the yard an emblem of American normalcy. This cultural shift fueled a massive commercial breeding trade, flooding the shelter system with animals the suburban ideal could no longer accommodate. Over the next 4 decades, aggressive stay and neuter campaigns plummeted the annual euthanasia toll to roughly 350,000 by 2021, a historic animal welfare achievement. But after 2020, that progress reversed. Shelter populations ballooned, and euthanasia rates began their first sustained climb in a generation. The celebrated decline masked the reality of a fragile system. The recent spike demonstrates that the crisis was never truly resolved. It was merely suppressed by statistical trends that could not survive a major social disruption. Today, the industry defines success through the 90% save rate. This no-kill threshold shifted shelter culture toward accountability, establishing a concrete target for municipal facilities to justify their funding and their existence. This metric creates a powerful incentive for intake restriction. By turning away 1,000 difficult-to-place animals, a shelter removes them from its statistical denominator. The result is an inflated survival percentage that satisfies the no-kill criteria without reducing animal suffering in the community. The dogs labeled as pit bulls bear the brunt of these restricted intakes. They remain the most euthanasia-vulnerable population in the country, often excluded from the very systems designed to save them. The term pit bull functions as a subjective visual category rather than a genetic fact. Research shows that shelter workers and veterinarians routinely misidentify breeds, assigning labels based on head shape and chest width that DNA analysis frequently contradicts. This visual guesswork provides the foundation for breed-specific legislation. In hundreds of municipalities, the law mandates the euthanasia of any dog fitting a physical profile. Gentle, socialized animals are destroyed by local government mandate based entirely on how they look. This stigmatization is a modern phenomenon. In the early 20th century, pit bull-type dogs were celebrated American war heroes. Sergeant Stubby, the most decorated dog of World War I, served as an emblem of national toughness and loyalty, long before the breed was reimagined as a symbol of urban danger. The Michael Vick dogfighting case provided definitive evidence against the stigma of innate aggression. After their rescue from horrific conditions, individual behavioral evaluations proved that nearly all the seized dogs were safely rehabilitatable. Many eventually transitioned into family homes and therapy work. Ultimately, the no-kill label serves as a mathematical shield. It protects the reputation of the institution while failing the animals whose appearance and cultural history make them difficult to count. The shelter crisis reflects a stark geographic divide. While the Northeast and West Coast face a high demand for adoptable dogs, the rural South generates a massive surplus of strays, fueled by concentrated poverty and a lack of veterinary infrastructure. This mismatch created a high-volume logistics system. Every month, an informal network of volunteers and private rescues moves hundreds of thousands of southern dogs northward to meet the demands of the coastal adoption markets. This network follows a clear market logic. Destination rescues often cherry-pick highly adoptable puppies and purebreds, leaving the hardest-to-place animals behind in the South. The most vulnerable populations remain trapped in overcrowded pounds, while the most marketable inventory moves north. The scale of this demand is so immense that while the U.S. exports southern dogs to the north, it simultaneously imports tens of thousands of rescue dogs from overseas. Adoption demand is being met by animals from South Korea and Eastern Europe, while domestic dogs in southern shelters face euthanasia for lack of transport. The rescue transport economy functions as a commodity market, prioritizing the movement of easily adoptable animals, while the most desperate are abandoned to the limitations of their local geography. The American pet industry is a $158 billion economy designed for impulse. Online marketplaces function as acquisitional environments, where the ease of purchase masks the long-term commitment of ownership, structurally leading to a cycle of acquisition and surrender. During the 2020 lockdowns, a surge of stay-at-home adoptions temporarily emptied shelters. This created the narrative of the pandemic puppy, suggesting that a wave of impulse buyers would inevitably abandon their pets the moment offices reopened. The reality was more systemic. When veterinary clinics suspended routine surgeries during the pandemic, it created a deficit of 2.7 million spay and neuter procedures. This missed medical intervention fueled the surge in stray populations that overwhelmed shelters 2 years later. Economic triggers accelerated the bust. Spiking costs for food and veterinary care, combined with the end of eviction moratoriums, forced many owners into pet-restricted housing. People were forced to choose between a roof over their heads and the animals they had raised. For those working inside the shelters, the overcrowding creates what researchers call the caring-killing paradox. Staff members provide daily care and affection to healthy animals, only to be responsible for their euthanasia when the facility reaches its physical limit. This constant trauma leads to severe compassion fatigue and high turnover. In the broader veterinary profession, this repeated exposure to institutionalized animal loss contributes to significantly elevated suicide rates relative to the general population. The overcrowding in our shelters exists as a symptom of a larger socioeconomic disaster, leaving the animals and the frontline workers to manage the terminal consequences of human failure. The shelter crisis is the direct result of human inaction. It is driven by the concentration of poverty, the lack of pet-friendly, affordable housing, and a commercial breeding industry that operates with minimal accountability for the animals it produces. Natural disasters like Hurricane Katrina expose the fragility of this human-animal bond. When emergency systems fail to accommodate pets, families are often forced to choose between their own safety and the lives of their companions, leading to mass displacement and suffering. International models suggest a different path. In Germany, strict breeding regulations, universal microchipping, and comprehensive spay and neuter access have virtually eliminated the need for shelter euthanasia, treating pet ownership as a regulated social responsibility rather than a private whim. A sustainable American model requires shifting the focus from the shelter to the community. By providing accessible veterinary care and legal protections for pets as sentient property, we can address the root causes of surrender before animals ever reach the shelter door. Ultimately, the American shelter is a local Band-Aid applied to a gaping wound of systemic national neglect, a mirror reflecting the same socioeconomic contradictions that define our broader modern landscape. This analysis of systemic failure is derived from Volume 2, Fentanylmation, Inside America's Opioid Catastrophe, by Sue B. Howell. The book is available now in Amazon bookstores worldwide. Please subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon to be notified of our next video.